The story I'm about to tell you is called My Wife Got Fit and Decided I Wasn't Good Enough Anymore, so she filed for divorce, but it didn't go how she expected. Hey there, before we dive into today's video, I've got a quick favor to ask. We've noticed the channel's been slowing down a bit, and one of the best ways you can help us keep it going strong is by subscribing. It doesn't cost a thing, it only takes a second, and it really helps us keep delivering stories you love. Your support means everything, it keeps the lights on and the stories coming. We appreciate it more than you know. Alright, let's get into it. Hey folks, Mark here. Strap in, because my life went completely off the rails not too long ago. I'm 35 years old, just your everyday guy working as a warehouse manager here in Columbus. My life wasn't exciting, but it was steady. I had a solid job, owned a decent little house, and I was married to a woman named Jenna. We'd been together for 6 years and married for 3 of those. I honestly thought things were fine between us. Not perfect, sure, we weren't some rom-com couple always kissing and whispering sweet nothings, but we had our routines, our laughs, our rhythm. We paid our bills on time, squeezed in date nights when we could, and sure, we bickered here and there, just normal marriage stuff, or so I believed. But then, about 5 months ago, Jenna suddenly jumped headfirst into this whole fitness transformation thing. It kind of came out of nowhere, but I didn't think much of it at first. She signed up for this fancy gym downtown, the kind that looks more like a luxury spa than a place to sweat, and hired a personal trainer named Tyler. Before I knew it, she was all about clean eating, macros, smoothies, and some kind of detox plan I couldn't pronounce. Honestly, I was all for it. I supported her completely. I figured, hey, if she's doing this to feel better, good for her. Everyone deserves to feel confident. I even assumed it would be like her other hobbies, like the knitting phase that lasted a month or the brief obsession with tarot cards. I actually tried to help out in my own way. I picked up more chores around the house, started doing the dishes, folded the laundry, grabbed groceries, just so she'd have more free time to chase her goals at the gym. It felt like a way to show her I had her back. But little by little, things started to change. And not in a good way. The more pounds she dropped, the more inflated her ego got. Suddenly, she couldn't walk past a mirror without stopping to admire herself. She'd spend forever adjusting her workout clothes or taking just the right selfie to post online. It stopped being about her journey. It became a performance. She wasn't just doing this for herself anymore, she was doing it for attention. I'll never forget this one Friday night. I asked her if she wanted to watch a movie together, just a quiet evening like we used to have. She looked at me like I'd asked her to waste her life. Mark, I don't have time to sit around, she snapped. I have goals to crush. Goals? What goals? It's not like she was training for a triathlon or planning to scale Mount Everest. She was lifting weights and drinking neon green mystery juice. But whatever. I let it slide. Maybe I was being the one out of touch. Then came the morning it all hit the fan. It started like any regular day. I was still half asleep, nursing my coffee before heading to the warehouse while Jenna chugged one of her kale spinach protein bombs. She was already in her workout gear, glued to her phone like it was breathing for her. And then, out of nowhere, she goes, I deserve more in life. I blinked, still groggy. More of what? She calmly set her smoothie down, looked me dead in the eyes, and said, this marriage is holding me back. I'm filing for divorce. At first, I honestly thought she was joking. I chuckled, thought maybe she was being dramatic. But her face? Ice cold. I've outgrown this, she said, like I was an old couch she was ready to toss on the curb. You wouldn't understand. I just sat there stunned. My wife, the woman I'd shared years of my life with, just dropped this bomb like it was no big deal. I was trying to wrap my head around what she was saying, but inside, all I felt was this heavy, confused anger boiling up. What do you mean you've outgrown this? I asked, totally thrown. Outgrown what, exactly? She sighed like I was some clueless kid. Mark, I've been working on myself, becoming the best version of me. And honestly, this life? It just doesn't match what I'm capable of anymore. She motioned around the kitchen. I want more than this house. This routine. This you. Her words stung. She didn't try to soften the blow. In her eyes, I was part of the dead weight she was shedding. Everything we'd built together? It wasn't enough for her anymore. She picked up her gym bag, didn't say another word, and walked right out. I sat there, staring at the half-finished glass of green goo she'd left behind, trying to make sense of what just happened. That whole day at work was a blur. I went through the motions, but my brain wouldn't stop circling back to Jenna. Was she serious? Was this really happening? Sure, we'd had our share of disagreements like any couple, but divorce? Felt like she'd been rehearsing that speech in her head for weeks. In the days that followed, the cracks in our marriage became too obvious to ignore. Jenna barely spoke to me unless it had to do with splitting the house or finding a mediator. She'd started staying out late, saying she was working out or hanging with friends. Her phone never left her hand, and her Instagram was suddenly full of filtered selfies with captions like, "New chapter? Who dis?" and "Living my best life." Each post felt like a slap across the face. One night, I checked her profile and noticed something. She deleted every single photo of us. The wedding pictures? Gone. Our anniversary memories? Wiped. It was like I'd been erased from her story entirely. Meanwhile, her new content was getting tons of likes and praise. People in the comments calling her an inspiration and saying she was glowing. It made me sick. None of those people knew what she was really like or how deeply she was hurting me. Then one morning, I overheard her talking on the phone while I was getting ready. She was in the kitchen, putting on that sweet, fake tone she uses when she's trying to impress someone. "Yeah, I just feel so free now," she giggled. "I'm finally doing what makes me happy." A pause. Then, "He doesn't even get it. He's stuck in the past." That's when it hit me. This wasn't just a breakup. Jenna was completely rewriting her identity, and I was the deadweight she was cutting off to feel lighter. But here's the deal. I'm not the kind of guy who curls up and gives up. She thought she could bulldoze through my life and walk off with everything like I just roll over. But she was in for a surprise. This was only the beginning. If she wanted a war, she'd get one. But hold up, it gets worse. One afternoon, I was at this cafe near work, just grabbing lunch and scrolling through my phone, when I caught part of a conversation between two guys sitting at the next table. They were laughing about some fitness influencer they'd found online. I didn't think much of it, until one of them said her name, Jenna. My stomach turned. I kept listening. They were going on and on about how she had some premium content going now. At first I thought, no way. There's no chance that's my Jenna. Then one of them pulled up her Instagram, and there she was. My wife. My Jenna. They started talking about how she'd been hinting at launching an OnlyFans, even posting the link in her bio with tags like, "real workouts inside." Man, my blood was boiling. This wasn't just about getting fit anymore. Jenna had taken her so-called freedom and turned it into some thirst trap circus for cash. When I got back home that evening, I didn't even hesitate. I went straight to her while she lounged on the couch, nose buried in her phone like the world outside didn't exist. I tried to keep it together, but my voice was tight. "Jenna," I said, "what the hell is this I'm hearing about you starting an OnlyFans?" She didn't even blink, looked up at me with this blank stare and said, "It's my body, Mark, my choice, and honestly, it's none of your concern anymore." That hit me like a truck. None of my concern? We were still legally married, still sharing a roof. Meanwhile, she was out there broadcasting herself online, while I was trying to hold together whatever scraps were left of our life. She rolled her eyes like I was some dinosaur who just didn't understand how the modern world worked. "It's not like I'm selling myself," she scoffed. "It's content. Everyone's doing it. Besides, you're not exactly footing my bills these days." That's when it finally clicked. Jenna didn't just want out of the marriage. She wanted a whole new reality. One where she was the center of attention, the star of her own little drama. And I was just the outdated background character she'd already written off. She wasn't ashamed. If anything, she acted like she'd finally found her calling, as if showing off for strangers online was some kind of noble reinvention. And man, she leaned into it hard. Over the next few weeks, it got even more ridiculous. She started dressing like she was heading to a red carpet every time she left the house. Tight dresses that left little to the imagination, heels so high they looked painful, makeup so thick it could stop a bullet. Grocery run? Still full glam. And the captions she posted just kept getting bolder. "Living my truth. No more holding back." And the one that made me want to hurl my phone across the room. "She's not a wife anymore. She's a force of nature." Can you believe the nerve? While Jenna was off chasing the influencer dream, I was stuck picking up the pieces, lawyers, documents, mediation. But she wasn't as invincible as she thought. "See, my lawyer Alan, shout out to the guy, he's a beast," started digging. And wouldn't you know it? She was seeing someone. But not just anyone. A gold digger in gym clothes. And if you've been paying attention, you already know who I mean. Yep, Tyler. Let's just say things were about to get spicy. I'll keep you updated. Fast forward, hey Reddit, it's Mark again. Your favorite soon-to-be ex-husband watching this train wreck unfold in real time. If you've been following my saga, you know Jenna pieced out on me, claimed she had outgrown our life, and started acting like she was the next big fitness icon. But let's focus on the guy behind the curtain, Tyler. Real original, right? Her personal trainer. The moment his name came up, I just knew it wasn't some innocent workout partnership. Tyler looked like he walked straight off the set of a reality dating show, tanned, shredded, and shallow as a puddle in July. Full of smirks, protein shakes, and way too much cologne. The kind of guy who'd call himself alpha unironically. Jenna wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. One day she walked in after the gym, all smug, practically glowing, and casually dropped, "Tyler says I'm the strongest I've ever been." Like I cared. Sure, Jenna. I'm guessing Tyler also said you're not like the other girls and he's never met anyone like you. That dude's running lines straight from a romance scam script. A few weeks later, she quit pretending altogether. Suddenly it was Tyler recommended this protein powder, or Tyler's taking me to that trendy vegan spot. And me? I'm just standing there thinking, wow, this is really happening. She wasn't just name-dropping, she was showing him off like he was some shiny new trophy. Didn't take long for the rumors to start flying. Friends started texting me with sightings of them all over town, holding hands, laughing, cuddled up like they were social media royalty. Jenna didn't care who saw. She flaunted it like she wanted the world to know. Then came the bombshell. She came home one night, dropped her bag, and said, "Just so you know, Tyler and I are officially dating. Thought you should hear it from me." Oh, I heard it loud and clear. At that point, she was already gone emotionally, so it was just one more checkmark on her transformation checklist. She didn't care if it was cheating. She'd already burned the bridge. But here's where it gets interesting. The more I learned about Tyler, the angrier I got. Because he wasn't just some clueless trainer swept up in romance. No, this dude had a pattern. Alan, my legend of a lawyer, uncovered everything. Turns out Tyler had done this exact same thing twice. 2 other married women. Same playbook every time. He'd swoop in, shower them with compliments, fill their heads with "you deserve better" speeches, and convince them to leave their husbands. Then, when the divorce drama cooled down and the bank accounts dried up, he ghosted them like a magician disappearing behind a puff of smoke. He wasn't in it for love. He was in it for the grift. He sold these women a fantasy. Made them feel seen. Powerful. Untouchable. But it was all a hustle. And Jenna? Oh, she fell for it like it was a fairy tale. She was the perfect target. Always hungry for attention. Always needing validation. Tyler had her wrapped up so tight she couldn't even see the strings. And worst of all, he was smug about it. Real smug. Word got back to me through a mutual acquaintance. Apparently Tyler was already talking big. Once the divorce is final, he said, "Jenna and I are gonna build an empire." An empire. Dude, you're a personal trainer with a ring light. Not Jeff Bezos. But here's the kicker. Tyler wasn't just eyeing Jenna's money, he was eyeing mine. Jenna had the audacity to demand half my savings. Spousal support. And she even wanted the house. She thought she could walk into court, cry a little, and stroll out with a golden ticket for her and her gym rat boyfriend. What she didn't know. Alan and I came prepared. We had receipts. And we weren't playing nice. Let me paint you a picture of Jenna and Tyler together. He's the kind of guy who owns more tank tops than actual shirts. She's suddenly dressing like she's auditioning for Keeping Up with the Has-Beens. Their social media was filled with staged photos posing by luxury cars that definitely weren't theirs, eating at overpriced restaurants I'm sure she was paying for. It was all so performative. Look at us, we're thriving. But anyone with common sense could see it for what it was: 2 overcompensating attention seekers playing house. And even the fantasy started to unravel. One night, I overheard her arguing on the phone. She was in the kitchen, voice tight with frustration. "I don't care what your exes said about you, Tyler," she snapped. "You're with me now and I deserve better than your baggage." I didn't hear the rest, but it was enough. Cracks were forming in their fairy tale. And as frustrating as it was, I'll admit there was something satisfying about watching her double down on this guy. She went all in, bet the farm on Tyler being her escape plan. And it was all starting to collapse. Alan and I? We were just getting started. Mediation came next, and trust me, Jenna's confidence didn't come out the other side unscathed. She walked into that courtroom acting like she was Queen Beyoncé herself and walked out looking like a wide-eyed deer caught in headlights. It was chef's kiss perfect. And Tyler? Her loyal cheerleader? He didn't even bother to console her. No arm around her shoulder, no whispered, "It'll be okay." Just him slouched behind her, thumbing through his phone like he was waiting for an Uber. That's when I realized their little fantasy empire was already crumbling, no matter what show they tried to put on. But let's rewind for a second. Mediation didn't just go badly for Jenna, it went up in flames. She strutted in there thinking she'd cry a few tears, spin a sad little story, and waltz out with my house, half my savings, and some monthly checks from me for her emotional recovery. Her lawyer painted her like this selfless wife who gave up everything for my average dreams. Average? I've been breaking my back at the warehouse for years to keep our life stable. But luckily, my guy Alan came in swinging. He brought receipts. Literal ones. Spreadsheets. Screenshots. Bank statements. He laid it all out. Jenna had been blowing through our shared accounts long before she ever mentioned divorce. While I was eating reheated pasta and wondering where things went wrong, she was dropping hundreds on spa treatments, designer handbags, and $300 date nights with herself. Alan didn't let a single penny go unnoticed. And then came the part that wiped the smug look off both their faces. Tyler's past. Alan had uncovered everything. The other women. The affair patterns. The disappearances once the cash dried up. And to top it all off, we had messages from one of his former flings warning Jenna that he was nothing but a snake in gym shorts. But Jenna? She thought she was special. Thought she was the one woman who'd change him. Even Tyler's face changed. That cocky grin disappeared, replaced by something that almost looked like regret. Maybe fear. Jenna tried to defend him, saying Tyler's not like that anymore. But it didn't matter. The proof was right there. They couldn't charm their way out of this one. The judge wasn't buying their act for a second. By the end of that mediation, it was obvious Jenna wasn't walking away with the jackpot she thought she deserved. And Tyler? The guy looked like he was mentally planning his next escape route. After that, Jenna started acting different. The fire in her was fading. She still posted on Instagram, but the energy had shifted. Gone were the confident captions and power poses. Now it was stuff like, "Growth is painful but necessary." Yeah, okay, Jenna. Keep lying to yourself. And Tyler? He dropped the mask too. He was still hanging around, but the charm had vanished. He started skipping their couple outings. No more gym selfies, no more kissing pics in overpriced restaurants. I started hearing whispers that he'd been flirting with another client. A younger woman. One without legal drama and emotional baggage. Figures. Then one night, Jenna came home late. We were still stuck living in the same house. I couldn't legally kick her out yet, and she stumbled through the door looking completely worn out. I didn't say anything. Just sat on the couch watching her. She dropped her designer purse on the counter and let out this dramatic sigh, like she was waiting for me to ask what was wrong. I didn't play along. I got up and went to my room. The next morning, she pretended like nothing had happened. She was back in the kitchen blending one of her nasty green smoothies, but the air around her felt different. No smugness. No attitude. Then, out of nowhere, she mumbled, "Tyler's just been really busy with his clients lately." I stayed silent. She wanted me to ask. Wanted me to engage. But I wasn't taking the bait. Then came the next round of chaos. A week later, I got a call from Alan. Apparently, Jenna had filed some last-minute paperwork trying to squeeze more money out of me. She was claiming emotional damages, saying I caused her stress during the marriage. Can you believe that? She basically tried to sue me for her midlife crisis. But Alan? Man had already anticipated her nonsense. He hit back with a countersuit that laid everything out. Her spending habits. Her Instagram thirst traps. The emotional manipulation. He even used her own posts as evidence. The captions alone were gold. Proof that she wasn't some broken-hearted victim but a full-blown diva on a self-promotional tour at my expense. Then, right on cue, Tyler vanished. No more sessions. No more calls. No more tagged photos. He even blocked her on Instagram. Yep, you heard that right, blocked. Jenna was unraveling. I could hear her stomping through the house, leaving voicemails and texts. "Tyler, call me back. We need to talk." She was spiraling, and I'm not gonna lie, it felt kind of good. Not out of cruelty, but justice. She tried to burn down my life, and now the fire had circled back to her. Eventually, one of her friends spilled the tea. Tyler had moved on. He'd latched onto another client. Younger, flashier, and, most importantly, not trapped in divorce court. Jenna was crushed. She tried to act like she was still in control. Posted some vague quotes like, "Sometimes people aren't who they say they are, and you can't build with someone who's playing games." But come on. We all knew. Tyler bailed the second things got tough. That's when her mask finally fell off. The gym visits stopped. The glam dresses disappeared. She was back to baggy sweats and messy buns. Even her beloved Instagram went quiet. It was like without Tyler, and the fantasy of their dream life. She didn't know who she was anymore. Then, one night, she showed up in the doorway of the living room. "Mark," she said softly, "I think we need to reevaluate some things." I just looked at her, waiting. This divorce, it's been hard. For both of us. I tilted my head. "What exactly are you getting at, Jenna?" She sighed, like she was the one who'd been betrayed. "I just think maybe we rushed into this. We had good times, didn't we?" I almost laughed. "Jenna," I said, "you filed for divorce. You said I was holding you back. Remember? Now that your boyfriend ghosted you, you suddenly miss what we had." She tried to pull the sympathy card. Talked about being lonely, about how much she sacrificed, how tough it's been. But I'd heard enough. "Jenna," I said firmly, "you made your choices. Now you get to live with them. I didn't have to get revenge. I didn't need to play dirty. Life was doing that for me." Her perfect little fantasy world had collapsed, and all I had to do was stand still. That's it for now, Reddit. Final court decision is coming up, and trust me, you're gonna want to hear how this ends. Update 2. Hey again, Reddit. Mark here. Thanks for sticking through this mess with me. We've made it to the grand finale. Jenna thought she could saunter into court, strip me of everything, and go live happily ever after with Mr. Biceps. But guess what? Karma had other plans. Court day finally arrived. When Jenna stepped into that courtroom, it wasn't the usual strut I'd grown used to. No flashy designer jacket, no smug smile. Just her and her lawyer, walking in like two kids who knew they were about to get scolded. You could feel it. She must have sensed the tide had turned. And let me tell you, I was savoring every second of it. Meanwhile, I sat across the room with Alan, my battle-hardened lawyer, who walked in carrying a binder so thick it could have doubled as a damn cinder block. We weren't rattled. Not even close. Jenna had already thrown every low blow she could come up with, and I was still standing. But today wasn't just about surviving. It was about winning. Her lawyer kicked things off by going over that ridiculous emotional compensation claim she filed. Yeah, the one where I supposedly crushed her spirit by not supporting her fitness journey. Apparently, by refusing to clap for her affair with Tyler, I'd been emotionally neglectful. Alan didn't interrupt. He let them ramble, gave them enough rope to tie their own noose. And once they were done, he stood up and dismantled their fantasy piece by piece. First, he laid out the truth, that I had done everything to support Jenna's so-called transformation. He brought out texts showing how I offered to meal prep, how I shifted my work hours to help with chores, and even suggested we try couples fitness classes, just to stay connected while she chased her goals. Then Alan delivered the gut punch. He told the court that Jenna's claim wasn't just weak. It was a cover-up for her own emotional neglect. He showed emails and texts where Jenna mocked me behind my back. She called me boring, said I was dead weight, and even joked about keeping me around as a backup plan. If that wasn't enough, he showed screenshots of her bragging to friends about Tyler. But the final blow? Alan presented bank statements that traced thousands of dollars she'd siphoned from our joint account straight into her own luxury lifestyle. And when Jenna's lawyer tried to push back, Alan pulled out the ace. A journal entry Jenna had written, one he'd subpoenaed. In her own handwriting, she outlined her plan. Ditch me, bleed the marriage dry, and use the settlement to bankroll her fantasy life with Tyler. The judge's face when he read that? I'll never forget it. He looked down at the journal, then slowly up at Jenna, flipping page after page with this look of growing disbelief. The entire room went silent. You could feel the walls closing in. Jenna sat there stiff as a statue, her nails tapping anxiously on the table. That overconfident energy she brought into mediation? Gone without a trace. I sat quietly across from her, Alan at my side, and for the first time in a long time, I felt calm. Because this was it, the moment the truth swallowed all her lies whole. The judge finally spoke. Mrs. Reynolds, he began, calm but stern, your request for emotional compensation is without merit. He paused, letting the words hang in the air before continuing. Emotional distress must be substantiated by evidence. Your case relies on vague, personal perception, not facts. Then he shifted to Alan's arguments. He cited the texts, financial records, and even her Instagram captions. He said they painted a far different story than what Jenna tried to present. Then he turned to me. "Mr. Reynolds," the judge said, addressing me directly, "you've provided consistent evidence of support throughout your marriage. What I see here is not neglect, but a man who made every effort to uplift his spouse." Jenna's lawyer tried to jump in, claiming the evidence was being misrepresented. The judge simply raised his hand. "The context is crystal clear, counselor. Moving on." Then we got to the financial side of things. The judge reviewed every statement Alan submitted. "Mrs. Reynolds," he said, tone dropping even colder, "you withdrew over $25,000 from your joint account leading up to this divorce." He didn't sugarcoat it. These expenditures were not for shared responsibilities or household needs. They were for luxury goods, fine dining, and personal entertainment. This court considers your actions financially irresponsible and in direct violation of marital trust. Jenna shifted in her seat. Her face flushed a dark shade of red. Her lawyer tried again to explain it away, calling it a coping mechanism. The judge wasn't having it. "Coping does not excuse financial misconduct," he said sharply. Then we reached the house. Jenna had argued she deserved half, said she emotionally contributed to the home if not financially. Alan came prepared. He submitted full mortgage payment records, maintenance receipts, renovation expenses, all paid for by me. The judge looked at Jenna and said plainly, "The home remains the sole property of Mr. Reynolds. Mrs. Reynolds, you provided no financial input and therefore have no claim." Jenna's mouth fell open. Her lawyer whispered something urgently, but she waved him off like she couldn't believe what was happening. The judge wasn't finished. "In addition," he said, "due to unauthorized use of marital funds, Mrs. Reynolds is ordered to repay Mr. Reynolds the amount of $25,000. You could have heard a pin drop. Her lawyer deflated in his seat, looking completely defeated. Jenna sat frozen, like someone had knocked all the air out of her. Her narrative, so carefully crafted and curated, had collapsed around her in spectacular fashion. The judge closed his file and said, "This court is adjourned." I leaned back in my chair, exhaling for what felt like the first time in months. Relief doesn't even begin to describe it. Walking out of that courtroom, the tension in the air was thick. Jenna's lawyer packed his things without making eye contact. Jenna followed, trailing behind like a shadow of her former self. Gone was the diva who thought she'd take me for everything. What remained was someone who looked completely defeated. As we stepped outside, Alan clapped a hand on my shoulder and gave me a quiet smile. "We did it. And damn right, we did." I gave Alan a nod, more thankful than words could express. He hadn't just defended me, he'd uncovered everything, laid it bare, and made sure the truth had its moment. As we left the courthouse, I glanced back over my shoulder. There was Jenna, still standing by the bench, staring at the floor like it might give her answers. For a brief second, I felt something close to pity. But just as quickly as it came, it vanished. She created this mess. She fed the fire. Now she had to live in the ashes. The fallout from the judge's ruling hit fast and hit hard. Jenna was ordered to vacate the house within 20 days, and I made sure that deadline was honored. She tried to drag it out, claimed she needed extra time to get her life together, but I wasn't playing that game anymore. I reminded her, flatly, that while she was busy parading around town with Tyler, she could have been packing. Begrudgingly, she started gathering her things. The day she finally moved out was strange, satisfying, but surreal. She hauled her designer luggage into an old beat-up car that a friend had loaned her. She didn't say goodbye. Not a word. Just started the engine and disappeared down the street. For the first time in months, the house felt quiet. Peaceful, even. No more tension lurking in every room. No more fake laughs or sideways comments. Just silence, and it felt good. Meanwhile, Jenna's finances took a nosedive. With no more access to my paycheck or our shared accounts, she was on her own. She tried to stay afloat by selling off her designer clothes and purses, but it barely scratched the surface of what she owed. Word started circulating. She was asking friends for money, leaning on anyone who'd listen. But people weren't buying the act anymore. Her sob stories were wearing thin, and those bridges she'd once burned weren't getting rebuilt. As for Tyler? Still nowhere to be found. No texts. No calls. No surprise visits. The man had pulled a full vanishing act. Then, about 2 weeks after the court ruling, she showed up. Unannounced. I opened the door to find her standing there on my porch. Gone was the polished woman who used to flood Instagram with filtered selfies. Her hair was a mess, her eyes were red, and she looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Mark," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can we talk?" I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "What do you want, Jenna?" She hesitated, arms folded, fingers fidgeting. I wanted to say I'm sorry, she said, eyes welling up. For everything. I messed up. I made horrible choices. I let Tyler manipulate me. I got so caught up in what I thought life was supposed to be that I destroyed what I had. It sounded rehearsed, like she'd practiced in the mirror. But the desperation in her face? That part was real. She wasn't standing there because of some deep, life-changing epiphany. She was there because she was out of options. Because everything else had crumbled. I don't know what you expect me to say, I replied calmly. You made your decisions, Jenna. You chose them. You chose to lie, to try and take everything from me. And now you're dealing with the aftermath. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Can't we at least be civil? Maybe try again? Please, Mark. I have nothing left. I'm completely lost. I looked at her. I mean, really looked at her. But all I felt was clarity. Jenna, I said, voice steady, I gave you everything. My time. My support. My love. And you threw it all away like it meant nothing. You don't get to show up now and ask for a reset button. Life doesn't work like that. She broke down right there on my front porch, crying into her hands. But I didn't comfort her. I didn't move. I stood there for a moment, then stepped back inside and quietly closed the door. She was on the outside now, literally and figuratively. Since that day, I've moved on. Found peace. Got my life back. As for Jenna? From what I've heard through mutual acquaintances, she's still scrambling. Still struggling to find her footing. Most of the people she once leaned on have stopped answering her calls. The sympathy dried up quick when the truth came out. Sometimes karma doesn't knock politely, it kicks the damn door in. And for Jenna, it didn't just take her fantasy away. It left her standing in the wreckage, alone, with nothing but the consequences of her own decisions.